The Nazi Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, did this because he was trying to change the conversation away from what are your rights and what evidence must the government show to sort of violate them, to intrude into your private life, and instead say, why do you need your rights? How can you justify your rights? Isn't it strange that you're invoking your rights? Isn't that unusual? But in a free society, this is the opposite of the way it's supposed to work. You don't need to explain why you have a right. You don't need to explain why it's valuable, why you need it, right? It's for the government to explain why you don't deserve it. They go to a court, they show that you're a criminal. This is increasingly falling out of favor because governments and companies think it's inefficient, it's too much work. Life would be easier, life would be more convenient for them, life would be more profitable for them if we didn't have any rights at all. But privacy isn't about something to hide. Privacy is about something to protect. And that is the very concept of liberty. It is the idea that there can be some part of you, of your life, of your ideas that belong to you, not to society. And you get to make the decisions about who you share that with. We're talking about where mass surveillance comes from. Of course, no government is going to say, we decided you don't have rights anymore. We did it secretly. We changed the rules. Maybe we'll pass a law, maybe we won't. But the new practice is to monitor everyone everywhere because they might be a criminal. Instead, you get them saying they're doing you a favor to protect your life, to protect your home, to protect your money, to protect the public budget. They're passing a new program that's not a surveillance program, it's an identity program. The framework for mass surveillance today would look a lot like the Aadhaar system, right? So, I mean, this is how it works, right? People in India have been hearing for years and years and years these incredible statements out of the chiefs over at UEI. Every time they're criticized, there was recently this controversy about Google phones pushing the phone number for UEI into everybody's phone, right? And somehow Google puts out a statement and goes, oh, it was our fault. It was inadvertent. It was a mistake. We have 95% of the market share. Maybe that's not the exact number. Please check the fact on that. But they have an extraordinary amount of the market share of India. You know, everyone in India is using an Android phone, a Google phone, unless they're rich enough to afford an iPhone. And when you have that kind of position, it's very difficult to make a change that affects the phones of everybody in a country, right? And yet somehow, they managed to push this phone number to everybody. Now, UEI was not, they were not concerned that this happened. They said, oh, the phone number's wrong. It wasn't us. It was Google's fault. It was somebody else. God, we don't know what happened. But you shouldn't use this to attack the system. You know, it's wrong. It's saving you money. It's protecting people from being cheated by, you know, people stealing benefits. And that's all you need to worry about. Anybody who doesn't agree with this system, their vested interests, they're scaremongering, don't listen to them, right? But when we start to look at this, it gets a little bit strange. You know, the number one thing they always say in every public statement is, your data is safe. Data hasn't been breached. Their biometrics are secure, right? But nobody actually said otherwise. The idea isn't that you can, you know, go on the internet and access anybody's Aadhaar information directly. It's that it's being leaked. And of course, this is how we get scandals like we've seen where officials from within UEDI are having their personal details, their private details leaked by people looking up their Aadhaar numbers. The phone number that was pushed by Google to all of these handsets through an incredible mystery, no one knows how it happened, right? Google just woke up in the morning and said they wanted to do this. That doesn't sound convincing to me. But the UEDI people said, oh, it's the wrong number. It's not even our number to begin with. But it's the number that's printed on the back of your card, right? If the people who are providing the card, if the people who are creating a mandatory enrollment system that is forcing identity on people throughout the country to the point where there have been stories in India that you cannot have a child and get a birth certificate for that child unless you provide your Aadhaar number. Clearly, something in this system is not working. Clearly, people have concerns that are not unreasonable, but eminently reasonable. And if this is the case, if the public generally is concerned, if there is an unrelenting train of scandals about this system, it seems that if this were a system that were concerned about the public's trust, they would respond to these in a reasonable way. They would look at the criticisms, they would address the systems, the criticisms, they would reform the system, instead of saying any criticism of us is illegitimate, it's scaremongering, we just need to move forward. Anytime we're talking about protecting cheating on social benefits, right, it sounds like a good thing. But if that were all that Aadhaar did, no one would have arguments against it, right? No one would be complaining. The problem is, and perhaps the biggest crime behind this system, is that it's being used for things that are unrelated to what the government is paying for. Find in India right now a telecommunications company, a bank that doesn't know what Aadhaar is, even if the government's not paying for it, right? If you want to open an account, train ticket, are demanding an Aadhaar number, and not just the number, they're demanding that you show them the physical card, right? This is creating a systemization of society, of the public, and this was not the stated intention of the program. You'll see people at UEDI saying this is not what the program is for. But if that's actually happening, how to address it, right? If the Aadhaar system is to survive and work in public's favor, the very first thing that should happen before this program entrenches itself any further in society is there should be criminal penalties assigned to any company that asks for your Aadhaar number for a service that the government is not paying for. If it is not directly funded by a social benefit, and the company asks for it, they should not only be fined, right? Someone should go to jail for that. Because if not, we all know what's going to happen. Eventually, you're not going to be able to go to the store. You're not going to be able to sign up for a service. You're not going to be able to do anything in society without showing a number. You will be tracked. You will be monitored. You will be recorded in 100 different ways, and not by UEDI, by the Aadhaar number that they created that then is abused by every other company, every other group in society. There's only one way to prevent this, and that's to reform the system before it goes bad. And unfortunately, it's already started to go bad. The question is, who should be doing it, right? Do we want to create a society in which ordinary people who have jobs, who have commitments, who have families to take care of, whose hours are spoken for, have to, all of them, each individually become specialists in protecting their privacy, in fighting a kind of technological battle against the richest and most powerful companies in your country and in the world, as well as governments, both within India, state and national, as well as foreign governments that are trying to spy on you as well? Or should the government, these corporations and their policies be designed by law to protect policy? Should the criminal code be set such that the incentives of violating someone's privacy or even narrowing someone's privacy unnecessarily costs them more than it gains them? We have to ask ourselves, why do we have a privacy problem today? And the answer, of course, is because it benefits the people who are violating it. Think about it. If you had a neighbor who every time you left your house, they followed you around with a notebook, wrote down everything you did, and kept a record of it. And they did this for everyone in the neighborhood. And when you confronted them, this is what is happening due to the electronics of the system today. The only difference is we don't see it. It happens invisibly instead of seeing the person with the notepad. The only way to change this is to work on two fronts. We need to use both technology to enforce our rights through things like strong encryption that companies and governments can't interfere with. So we protect our rights on the technical level, and then also on a legal level. We need to make sure that our rights are enforced and enforced meaningfully. If our rights are violated, there should be a penalty for that violation. And then finally, and this is perhaps the most important thing for the people in this room today, we have to know about it. When we think about the Aadhaar system and where the scandal started, when we realized in places like India that all of this information that they say is absolutely secure in their database is available to anybody over WhatsApp if you provide the number to someone who's working at UAI, who's working at Aadhaar and wants to make a little bit of money on the side. We need journalists. We need investigation. We need people like Ratnakara who are willing to risk something, willing to dare to be criticized by the government, willing to face police investigations and things like that, to tell the public what they need to know. Because if we lose that, it doesn't matter if India is a democracy on paper, it ceases to become one in fact. Because every democratic government gets its legitimacy from a single concept. And this is that people understand what the government is doing and they consent to doing that. If the government's activities are happening without our knowledge, without our consent, without our agreement, they're not legitimate. It's not democratic.